I have never beaten my father at a game of chess, but I might one day. He says you learn more from a loss than you do from a win, and part of me disagrees. But if I ever beat him, there'd be a trite and rare celebration for a few moments, and then on to losing some more. Each futile game leads to an inevitable end. Of course, I don't want him to let me win, and he never has. There's nothing cruel about this. He's studied chess since childhood, and has beaten many a master, and has been beaten by many a master. He keeps getting knocked down and keeps getting up again. That's what makes my father so interesting. He rarely gave worldly advice. He just lived by example. If everything falls apart, you just put it back together again. My grandfather stood for reason, and when my father said he became a Christian and had found the woman he loved, he could not get through to him just how silly he thought that was. He was then dooming it before it even started. Tired, he handed him a copy of Elmer Gantry and then stormed away, probably wondering where he had gone wrong. When I told my father that I had found the woman I loved, he asked if I was sure, because he knew the truth and did not want me to make a huge mistake. He rolled his eyes and handed me the money to pay for our first nice car together, somehow also dooming it before it even started. With my son, things were so different. He has not yet said that he loves his girlfriend, because I have not yet handed him some tome from father to son, telling him how I feel about the relationship. I want him to make up his own mind. I don't want to damn him. As a father, you want to impart only the best of yourself to your kids. I try as hard as possible only to tell them the truth about things, and if it's something that I can't answer because they're too young, I say I'll tell you when you're old enough. My father used to say that one of the worst decisions a person has to make is between an old razor and a new one. I would later use those words about Occam's razor. The old one doesn't cut away enough bullshit, leaving hunks of irrational belief behind, and the new one cuts away too much, sometimes leaving you emotionless and without the best example of how to live your life. I thought I could not raise a boy. I was still one when I tried. As everyone knows, the first kid is the one you mess up on. Thereafter, you get better at it. My son has graduated high school, and I still fear for his future. The boy I met was a nasty, foul-mouthed, spoiled brat that put wild animals to shame. I remember wondering what it would take to get him into adulthood, and now here he is, ignoring the other partygoers to take solace in his phone with his arm around his girlfriend, still with no tome from me. I'm at his graduation party, and the strangest of tables is set before me. A tray of hot dogs and hamburgers lays still steaming next to my boyfriend, whom is busy chatting it up with my ex-wife about the hairstyle he just gave her, which of course she loves. A pile of freshly boiled corn sits in front of my mother and my stepfather. They graciously mow down, crunching on what I just explained to them to be a GMO whether they like it or not. They ignore me and crunch their way through 10,000 years of artificial selection, information on manipulation passed from father to son or daughter. Over buttery lips they ask my father, who's sitting next to me, in what year my mother had beaten him in a game of chess. He replies that never happened. It was a draw. My mother remembers it differently. My ex-mother-in-law smiles quietly at the end of the table, enjoying that her work is being enjoyed. I remind myself of all the decisions I've made to get here. There have been weirder moments than this. The road, it twists and winds through joy, loss, pain, and separation. To hear the joyful news that my son has graduated from high school. I never thought he would make it here. I was always so afraid for him, frustrated with him. All of the moments I can't take back, everything I've said to change his path. And so I write, letting the keys walk me forward through old memories. I think about them differently now. Reflection is never painful for me. I accept what's happened. I don't live in the past, but I retell it without fear. It cannot harm me or anyone else anymore. Atticus is worried that he has demons following him and would thus bring them upon an impressionable child, and in a way, he will. He walks through the door of Dana's place, with her in tow, having never been here before. Scattered about the living room are toys, food, storybooks, and other such childish things. A large TV set blares SpongeBob at high volume, splitting his and Dana's ears. Before him is the smallest lazy boy chair Addie had ever seen. It was adorned with little cowboy hats and pop guns. The chair is so close to the TV it should burn the occupant's eyes out. Atticus can only see the top of the child's head. Dana says, "Kid?" He does not respond, so she yells loud enough for his little head to turn, then peer over the top of the lazy boy. They are shrewd and angry, those 3-year-old eyes. They say, "This throne I sit upon is too small for the two of us." They squint, inspecting me. Atticus says hello in the nicest way possible. Just then, he stands up from his throne, throwing back a blanket like a cape. And to Atticus's surprise, the boy is standing there in his underwear, covered from head to toe in that orange Cheeto dust that gets everywhere. He glides about the room as if floating. How is this possible? Atticus thinks, and realizes that other than his underwear, he's gliding about his grandmother's hardwood floors on roller skates. Then suddenly, he trips over an idle toy and falls flat on his face, but does not cry. His mother huffs and puffs while picking him up off the floor. This absurd scene will be forever burned into Atticus's memory. The meeting of a father and son is usually in the delivery room. Not so much more absurd than what happened here with a lot less blood, though. The boy yells, "Fuck! Ow!" And immediately, Addie's mind goes back to the "back in my day" section of his mind. It's true, none of the things he saw that day would have ever happened in his father's house, or his mother's for that matter. He assumed that he must have been the problem, even though he had never been there before. He could tell there was no active disciplinarian in this home, and thought to himself that that would be his job. If something is broken, fix it. His hope upon becoming a father was to give wisdom and open his children's eyes to the wonders of the world. It's never so easy as that. The boy only cared about winning, and people letting him win, and telling him how great he was. No one had ever told Atticus he was great, and so like all parents with juvenoia, he was jealous of his son and the adoration that people gave him. It was so rarely deserved. Why give the boy a present when he just tried to light matches in his room? He would ask. Then his wife would ask, "Didn't you ever light matches for fun?" "Yes, but I wasn't given a present and told I was awesome afterwards. In fact, I was punished for accidentally lighting the rug on fire for a week." Most situations were like this, and the interactions became more caustic over time. There was that car ride where Atticus told his son to put his seatbelt on. He's 5 and refused, and in a rare moment of agreement, Dana told him to do it as well. Atticus explained what would happen if he didn't wear his seatbelt, and we got into an accident. His son still refused and said, "I am the king. I can do anything." His wife and he looked each other in the eye in that way that said, "Do it." Then Atticus slammed on the brakes for a second. His son flew forward, bouncing off his mother's seat, and began to scream and squeal, saying that he would call the cops, and they were in big trouble. Neither worried and laughed with his increasing screams. He hadn't been hurt. From then on, Kid wore his seatbelt without question. Living under his grandmother's roof for so long afforded him numerous opportunities to enact his kingly power. Meme, he would call from his secondary throne, the toilet. And Dana and Addie knew that that was his call to have his ass wiped by her. She said he never did it well enough. At first, Atticus agreed and even helped, at least until Kid was 8 years old. Frustrated and angry, Atticus would stand in the doorway pleading with Kid's grandmother to let him do it on his own. Kid would angrily growl from the bowl that Atticus was a fucking asshole, and his grandmother was a cunt for not kicking him out of the house. Atticus, in a bout of anger, pointed at the little boy on his throne and asked, "You think I'm one of your subjects in your little kingdom, don't you?" The boy smiled sarcastically and replied, "Yes," with his pants around his ankles. "Guess what?" Atticus retorted, then cautioned him. "You may be king of your grandmother's home, but when you are with me, I am God, and all kings kneel before gods." Addie felt satisfied and slammed the door, saying, "Wipe your own ass, little king." That was just the way of things. Every situation in so many repetitive posturings that it filled Atticus with boredom. Addie's constant struggle to get his son to do things on his own. "Why don't you clean up your room?" "Why? Mom'll just do it." Your mother is not a maid, and this is how you earn your allowance." "Yes, she is," he would say, continuing to play his video games as if what he had just said wasn't the meanest thing ever. Atticus tears the controller out of his hand, says, "Clean up your room, now." The 10-year-old says, "I hate you." Atticus says, "Good, good. Use that hate as fuel to clean up your room." Instead, the boy begins to throw things out his window until his room is devoid of toys and trash. Atticus discovers the pile and says cruelly to his son, he says, "The way you're gonna end up in jail," already dooming him from the start. Then thereafter, the 14-year-old kid assaulted Dana's new husband, the one whom he would never call dad. The man had tried to get him to clean up his room, and in a fit of rage, Kid ripped off his glasses and broke them, then punched the man in the face. While he was stunned, Kid then sprayed a can of Axe in his eyes. He calls Atticus at home and says, "Dad, the cops are here. Can you come over and save me?" When the cuffs came out, Kid cried and squealed like he did when he was a little boy. He railed against the police officers, saying that he was a child and they couldn't do this. They replied yes they could, and that it had been a long time coming. Atticus witnessed him taunting these same police officers over and over and over again. That same spite he had given him over the years. And was he just a bit satisfied to watch his own son being cuffed and charged with assault? Maybe. But then he thought, I'm a bad father. How could it have come to this? What demons have I passed on to my son? Atticus and Kid did not argue much anymore. The party winds down, and I'm exhausted from eating just like everyone else. Kid and his girlfriend are still sitting on the couch playing with their phones. The conversation is lazy. My ex, my boyfriend, and I sit at the table, letting lazy words fall out of our lazy mouths. She says, I can't believe he did it. I reply, I know. Against all odds, right? We all nod in agreement. We comment on how his little sister has become a little bratty lately, and at least she didn't swear though. I don't know why I said what I did, but people stopped and stared. My ex-mother-in-law, my mother, my father, my brother, my boyfriend, my ex's husband, and even Kid. They're all looking at me. I had said, I'm a bad father anyways. To whom I was speaking, I had no idea. But Dana, she looks me up and down and says, no, you weren't. I say, yes, I was. I was always so angry that I could never get my point across. She grits her teeth and she says, you're still here, while every other guy left. Just then, Kid pipes up. Over his phone, he says, you weren't a bad father. Smiles then, asks, can I have a beer? Dana and I look at each other in that agreeing way again, like so many times before, and in unison say, no. Later, near nightfall, I give him a beer anyways. Thank you for watching. So tell me in the comments section, subscribers, what was your father like? And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Share it on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, wherever. And while you're at it, check out the Let Me Finish podcast on SoundCloud and iTunes. Link in the description. Jason with a D and I have been doing this for almost 2 years now, and each episode gets better than the last. We're almost on our 100th episode, and I want more people to join in the fun.